Welcome to Balance Black Girl. My name is Les. I'm your host, and I appreciate you tapping in. So, before we get into today's episode, I thought it could be fun to do a little life update, podcast update, state of the summer, because we're going to be having just a little bit of a different vibe around here for a little bit. So if you listened to the episode I did a couple weeks ago all about summer glow ups, that was a fun solo that I did. And I just talked about some of the ways that I'm pouring into myself this summer to support being my healthiest, happiest self, physically, emotionally, spiritually. A lot of you said that you really enjoyed that episode, which I appreciated. And something that y'all tell me all the time is how much you love the solo episodes. Since I started the podcast, that has probably been the most consistent piece of feedback is people say, I really like the interviews, but I love the solos. Can we get more solos? Ask and you shall receive, because you know what? I'm bringing you a solo episode summer. This episode marks the first full official week of summer, and I'm going to be coming at you with solo episodes for the next couple of months. And I'm really excited to do that, to get back to just talking you and I. We feature amazing guests here, and I will be bringing guests back into the fold, and we'll have, some bonus episodes and fun things and lots of great interviews in the fall. But I thought that summer would actually be a really great time to just be solo on the mic, have it be just me and you chatting. It's almost like we're on the phone or we're on FaceTime if you're watching on YouTube, and it can be a little bit more relaxed. And I think that that really aligns with my intention to have a fun, cute, whimsical summer. Again, if you listened to my How to Be Your Healthiest, Hottest, Happiest Self episode a few weeks ago, I talked about how one of my intentions for this year is to have my first fun summer since 2018. And a lot of that is just kind of lightening the workload a little bit. And as much as I love interviewing people and having guests, it does add a lot of work to the podcast where we're coordinating things and we're making sure everybody has what they need. And I'm prepping questions and we're getting everything in order. And I thought, listen, it's summer. Nobody wants to work that hard. The guests don't want to work and come chat. I don't really want to track them down this summer and be coordinating schedules and things. I want to keep it light. I want to keep it cute. And this is just a win-win for everybody because y'all love solos. I love maybe doing a little bit less work, and it's a little bit easier for me to hop on the mic solo in this current season of my life. It just supports a little bit better flexibility, being a little more agile with the topics we cover here, a little bit less kind of pre-planning. I can be in the moment more here with you. So I invite you to join me in having your healthiest, happiest summer. Even if you don't, have a birthday coming up like I do, we're keeping it cute. We're keeping it light. We're all doing our best to have a fun summer. If you are having a summer of outside like myself, welcome. And also, if you are just having a chill summer of inside and do you, that works too. But we are really just focusing on keeping it cute, keeping it light, having a little bit of fun. And as I started thinking about episodes to help us be our healthiest, happiest, hottest selves, like building upon those glow up episodes that we did that you all have loved, I thought, what better message for the girlies to hear than the importance of decentering men, and not just decentering men, but decentering romantic relationships, because I recognize that not everybody dates men, but I think everybody can benefit from taking romance off of this almighty pedestal that it has been on. And that is even something that I have been focusing more for myself just in this current season of my life, is just wanting to have a little bit more joy, wanting to do things that are centered in joy. And for me, I don't personally find joy in the endless hamster wheel of the current dating culture. It does not spark joy for me. Now, there are some people who they're having the time of their lives. They're having a ball. And if that is you, keep on keeping on. I love that for you. For me, that does not spark joy. My books spark joy. Time with my friends sparks joy. My walks spark joy, and the cards will fall where they may. But I'm just really wanting to kind of deplatform and decenter all of that in my own life. And I just had a message put on my heart about it. that I wanted to share in case you needed to hear it too. And I want to say that this is a super safe space. Like, I'm not here to talk down on anybody who does prioritize their relationships with men or their romantic happenings. I'm not here to judge anybody. I'm not here to label anybody. We're actually going to talk specifically about that later in the episode. I'm also not here to talk bad or trash about men, because I think even when we do that, when we harp on them and we bash and we hoot and we holler, that is still centering them. And so the point of decentering is like de-emphasizing, making it a really neutral topic of conversation. And that is the goal of today's episode. Now, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you may know I'm not the biggest TV girly. I don't watch a ton of TV, particularly of the reality TV type. I do like a good scripted show every now and again. And I gotta say, Shonda, our girl Shonda Rhimes, she will get me. She will have me in a chokehold, particularly of the Scandal and of the Bridgerton varieties. If Shonda ever wants to come on the podcast, I'd love to have you. Those two shows have me in a chokehold. A show that never had me in a chokehold was the Grey's Anatomy. I know a lot of people loved it. I've literally never watched not one episode out of the 942 seasons of that show. But I am very familiar with the quote that Christina Yang said to Meredith Grey when she said, "He is dreamy, but he's not the sun. You are." And that quote is literally the center of this episode. So I'm going to talk about three main principles of decentering men. And that is principle number one. You are the sun. Okay. You are the sun. If you think of your life as a solar system, you have to be the sun of your own solar system. Think about how the solar system works. You have the sun at the center, and you have all the other planets orbiting around the sun, basking in the sun's glow, basking in the sun's light, okay? Feeling the warmth and the glow of the sun. But the sun, she's in the middle. She is the moment. She is chilling. Okay. She's not forcing planets to come to her or trying to force her light upon somebody. Her light is what it is. And these planets get what they get. And that is how you have got to approach your life. If you want your best life, where you are resilient, where you are balanced, where you are happy, and where you're able to find joy, it comes from you being the sun, you being the center. And something that a lot of people, especially women, fall into is this trap of making someone else the sun, whether that is making a man the sun, or another trap is making a version of themselves who has a certain relationship status the sun. So if you're single, it's making that version of you that's in a relationship the sun. Or if you're in a relationship and you want to be engaged and married, it's making the married version of yourself the sun. You got to accept that you are the sun no matter where you are, no matter what your status is, no matter who is in your life or what planets are circling around you. You are still the sun. And what that means is really living for you. You are the light. You radiate the warmth. You make all of this happen just by being you. When we take other people and we put them on such a pedestal that we treat them as if they are more important than us, that their needs are more important than ours, that their desires are more important than ours, that we have to contort ourselves to appeal to them, we are making them the sun. We are making them the main character. And if your life is a solar system, or if your life is a movie, you're giving the main character spot to somebody who should be a supporting character. And that's not to say that relationships are bad, or that romance is bad, or that it's bad to want those things. I think it's natural to want those things. That can be such a beautiful part of life, but it's not the end all be all of life. you don't ever want to attract something by contorting yourself to be something else. And there is this energy of making someone else the center. And when I say someone else, I'm really speaking to like a grown adult, you know? Let's say you have a child or something and the baby is the center for a while, understandable. You got to do what you got to do to keep the baby babying. But a grown adult should not ever be the center of your solar system, should not ever be the main character of your movie. And the reason why you have to be the center, why you have to be the main character is because at the end of the day, you are the only one living your life, and you are going to be the only one living your life for the rest of your life. Whether we like it or not, people are going to come and people are going to go. Whether that is through good circumstances, bad circumstances, or whatever, you are going to be the only person who is with you for the full duration of your life. You are the only one feeling your emotions. You are the only one living in your body. Unless you're pregnant, then you are not the only one living in your body, but that's temporary. You are the only one permanently living in your body. So when it comes to how you feel and what does and doesn't work for you, you are the only one who feels the full brunt and consequences of all of those things. And when you live for other people, you are letting outside forces outside of you dictate something that truly and mostly affects you. So, you being the center of your world, the center of your universe, the main character in your movie is pivotal for feeling happy, for feeling fulfilled, for feeling in control of your life and of the world around you. Because if you give that power to anybody else, that is just going to be a recipe for feeling unfulfilled, for feeling like you're constantly chasing something, constantly looking for something, when what it is you're actually seeking is within yourself. Now, I think a lot of us have had experiences or we have seen before what happens when somebody has a breakup and has that post breakup glow up. I don't know if there are scientific studies on this, but there need to be. I have to say, I have done my own research and analysis of myself in that context of my own post breakup glow ups. And I have to say, breakups are really hard, but breakups have been some of the best things that have ever happened to me. After going through breakups, I've done things like launch this podcast, travel the world, pay off my student loans, get promoted, start businesses, make more money, move to dream cities and start over. I have increased income. I have made incredible new friends and built new community. I've felt better in my body. Like these are all things that happen as a byproduct of breakups. And I bet you have probably experienced something similar where you break up and then you get in the best shape of your life, or you break up and you get promoted, or you break up and you start a business, or you break up and you just start glowing different and you just look and feel so vibrant. And that's not to say that breakups are what do it, because it's not the breakup that did that. But breakups are often a shift that wake us up and that force us to be our own sun. So it is a real case study in our own lives of what happens when we become the center, when we pour into ourselves, and when you stop pouring your precious energy and abundance and resources into something that is draining you and not working for you, and you turn it back to yourself. That is where that thriving energy comes from. When you stop pouring energy into a relationship or a situationship or something that is clearly not working and not serving you, and you put just a fraction of that energy into something that really matters to you, whether that is your health, your wealth, your career, your friendships, those things magically start thriving because you are the magic. Your energy and your attention and your intention is the magic. Now, I'm not saying that glowing up or feeling amazing or thriving in those areas are only possible if you're not in a relationship. What I'm saying is those things are a litmus test of when you are and are not the sun. So it doesn't mean that you can't ever be in happy partnership and be thriving in that way. You absolutely can for the right thing that's not draining you. When you don't deplatform yourself, when you don't decenter yourself, A thriving partnership can be an amazing planet in your solar system that benefits from your light, but it's not going to dim and drain your light. And that is the difference. And I think that a mistake that a lot of particularly young women make is we compromise what's best for us for another person. Insert Eartha Kitt Eartha Kitt quote about compromise here. There are some things that you absolutely compromise on. Compromise on where to go for dinner, okay? Compromise on, what trip to take. You can compromise on that. But compromising on things that are good for your health, compromising on things that are good for your career, compromising on amazing opportunities for somebody who wouldn't do the same for you is a drain. Men don't turn down dream jobs because of us. They don't turn down scholarships because of us. They don't turn down opportunities because of us. They don't pick up and move and, leave a good thing they've got going because of us. But we are often expected to do so. And doing that can often lead us down a path that is not meant for us or that veers us very much off course. And we have to fight our way back to what we were already doing. So when you think about what it means to be the sun and to shine bright, it means that your light is not dimmed by any means. If something is meant for you, it's going to be good for you. It means it's going to help your light shine even more. It means you're not going to have to give up that amazing opportunity or being able to pour into yourself or being able to focus on school or being able to take care of yourself. You will be able to do that with the right love and with the right support. But if a situation requires you to not be able to do that, where you're then not able to stay on top of your schoolwork, you're not able to stay on top of what you need to do to get that promotion you really want or to build that business that you really want, then you have to question, am I being the sun? And that's when you got to do the important reflection and work to get yourself back into that sun position, to being the main character of your own story. So when you start thinking about what it means to be the sun, I think that there are some really important practices that help you keep that same energy no matter what phase of your life that you're in. So one of the things that's really important to help you keep that position of being the sun is having firm boundaries and stick to them. So if something is asking you to compromise your values or an important boundary that you have for your mental health, for your safety, for something that is really important to you, then you need to maintain that boundary. Okay? The sun does not lower her boundaries or dim or anything else or stop glowing because a planet wants her to. So those boundaries are going to be key. The next is not compromising what's good for you for the sake of another person. Because ultimately, if you're in a healthy relationship, what's good for you will be good for both of you. So if you are, again, the only one giving up your dream job, the only one whose grades are slipping, the only one whose health is suffering, you then have to question, is this a good situation for me? Am I making someone else the sun? How do I direct some of this energy back to me? And if this person has an issue with me directing energy back to me, is this a situation that I want to be in? Why would I want to be in any space where me being the healthiest, happiest, most successful version of myself is not celebrated and supported here? And then the next thing is investing in yourself. You are the best investment that you can ever make. And I'm going to be honest, another person, not the best investment. A man, not a good investment. If the average man were a stock, there is not a financial advisor alive who would tell you to put all your money in that stock, okay? So you have to assess, me putting my time and my energy and my love and my light and my resource into this person, where is this going to get me? Am I getting a return on this investment? And that return can be, do I feel loved? Do I feel happy? Do I feel fulfilled? Do I feel cared for? Am I also receiving love in return? And if you're not, then you're probably not getting a very good return on your investment. But investing in yourself, regardless, baby girl, you are the S&P 500, okay? That investment's going to compound year after year. So investing in yourself, investing in your health, investing in your self-worth, investing investing in your self-care practices, investing in really pouring into you and making sure that your heart and your mind and your soul and your body are cared for, and investing in making sure that your community around you is strong and that you are pouring into your relationships. Like that is what investing in yourself looks like. And if you're unable to do that, for the sake of a specific situation with a person, then you have to question, okay, where am I getting the best return on my investment here? I got to tell you, some of the best investments you can make in yourself: exercise, investing in your health, investing in your mind. Are you doing your practices each day? Whether that's going to therapy, whether that's journaling, whether that's tracking your finances, whether that is tracking your cycle and giving your body what it needs, whether that is being really intentional about pouring into your friendships so that you have that strong community, or investing in skills to help you level up at work if that's what you want. Like these are the types of investments you can make that are going to give you returns. And if after investing in yourself, you start getting those abundant returns back and you choose to share those returns with another person, amazing, beautiful, love it. That's what life is all about. But if you're just being drained of resources to the point where you're unable to invest in yourself at all, then it's time to step back and evaluate and look at ways that you can better center and pour into yourself. So remember, you are always the sun. You are the main character. And people in your life should be loving and supporting of that, but should not be draining that good energy and love that you can be pouring into yourself. So that's principle number one. You are the sun. Principle number two is really releasing judgment and learning how to decondition. Now, I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent here, but I want you to walk with me, to follow. I think a lot of us get very set on putting labels on people and putting one another in boxes. I think social media has really exacerbated this. We get very quick to call somebody a girl's girl or a mean girl or a pick me. And we put ourselves and one another in these boxes that do not allow for empathy, that do not allow for our full humanity, and that do not allow room for growth. And if we are going to deprogram these learnings, we have to have room for growth, and we have to learn how to see our full humanity in these things. So I think us labeling somebody as a pick me or a mean girl or a girl's girl isn't helpful. I think that we all have elements of those things in all of us. We have all had moments where we have been mean. And if you're saying you've never been mean, you are lying. Whether you are hangry or you were tired or maybe you had a little PMS, we have all had moments where we have been mean or when we have been hurt, and then we use that hurt to hurt other people. And that's not saying that it's okay. That's not excusing it. But it is to say that that's room for our humanity that doesn't necessarily confine to a certain label. I would also hope that we have all had moments where we've been a girl's girl, where we're looking out for other women and girls in our circle and in the world around us, where we're uplifting other people. But nobody does that all the time. It's just the truth. Like nobody does that all of the time. And I think sometimes we use that label of, is somebody a girl's girl, based off of, okay, this person agrees with me, she's a girl's girl. Or we say, she had a boundary, I didn't like that, I didn't like what she did, not a girl's girl. Again, that kind of judgment that we have for ourselves and other people, that's not helpful. That's not helping us here. And then lastly, and most, I think, relevant to this conversation, the label of pick me, I think it's always been a thing, but over the past couple years has gotten a lot of traction. I think everybody has moments where they've been a pick me over something. And even if you haven't necessarily been a pick me for boys or for dudes or in romantic contexts, a lot of us have been pick me's at work. I can say I have been, or at school. Like I was the biggest teacher's pet, and that is pick me behavior for a teacher. So it may not necessarily be in a dating context, but we all have moments where maybe we felt less than, or maybe we're really vying for that approval of other people, and we bend to the will of our boundaries, or we bend to maybe what's better for the collective, for what feels like approval for us in the meantime. I say this to say that these labels don't encompass the full humanity of who you are. So even if you are somebody who has been labeled a pick me or been labeled a mean girl or been labeled a girl's girl or whatever it is, you are a full human being. You can always expand, you can always grow, you can always take on a new perspective. You do not have to succumb to any label that has been given to you, especially, the mean girl or pick me labels, because those ones are more inherently negative. You can be whoever it is that you want to be, but oftentimes it comes with relearning and deconditioning and brain rewiring. And I think when it comes to decentering men and decentering the role that romantic relationships play and the importance of romantic relationships and not seeing that as the end all be all to our lives, it absolutely requires deconditioning for all of us. For many of us, we were raised in a patriarchal society. We are taught that a romantic relationship is the most important thing that you can have. And it is really hard as an individual to undo that kind of messaging that has been given to you for years and years. And so I like to have a little bit of empathy and a little bit of grace with people when I see them exhibit behaviors that may not necessarily be in alignment with that, as opposed to just writing them off and being like, oh, she's a pick me. Oh, not a girl's girl. Oh, not this. Oh, not that. Because it's really hard to undo systems of oppression that have been fed into you your entire life. And so I think we have to be honest about the ways that we all still uphold those systems, that we're all still deconditioning, that we're all still learning. And I think that there are some of us who have been more conditioned than others and may have a little bit more work to do here. Like for some of us, and I'm going to hold your hand when I say this, if you grew up in a very religious environment, you are probably going to have a little bit more work to do around the deconditioning of decentering men in romantic relationships. Again, this is a safe space. This is not a judgmental space. I'm not judging you. I'm telling you the truth. Because in those religious structures, particularly in the church, young girls are taught from a young age that being chosen by a man and being a wife is the most important thing in the world. And I'm not saying that it's not important and that it's not beautiful. I'm not anti those things at all. I'm not anti marriage. I think marriage can be amazing. Two people who choose to team up and do life together and make a lifelong commitment, I think is really beautiful. And it's something to be honored, but it is not the end all be all of your life, because there's still a whole lot of life that happens after that. And a lot of people, when they're being honest about it, get married and are like, now what? Because there's been all this buildup to that and to being chosen and thinking that it's going to solve all your problems. And then life continues lifing. And sometimes life be lifing even more and even harder when you're doing it with another person. But you thought that that just solved all your problems, and it doesn't. We have to have honest conversations about this and honest conversations about some of the advice and programming we've been given that isn't necessarily designed for us to thrive. And what we've been taught about centering romantic relationships in everything that we do and prioritizing that over anything that we do, and being chosen by a person by any means necessary, and that any relationship is better than no relationship. That was misguided advice that was not given to you to help you thrive. It was misguided advice given to you to help control you and to limit you and to keep you small and to keep you exhausted and to keep you from shining as bright as you possibly can shine. And so sometimes deconditioning really looks like asking tough questions of, okay, who is benefiting from this message? Who is benefiting from this belief that I have? Where did that belief come from? Are people who are holding that belief living a life that I want? If I genuinely look at how they're living and what their daily life looks like, is that what I want? Or if that's my daily life right now, does that feel good to me? What would make me feel good? And what would make me feel loved? And what would make me feel supported? Sometimes there's tough answers to those questions, and it requires hard inner work that causes us to release judgment of ourselves, of one another, of the systems that we grew up in. And when I see people who do succumb to that, it makes me not want to judge them. It makes me have a lot of empathy for them because it takes a lot of learning and a lot of unlearning to navigate that. And unfortunately, if you're deeper in it, sometimes it's going to take a few lumps. But I think for any of us who want to decenter these concepts in our lives, it requires honesty, radical honesty about some of the bad advice we've gotten, some of the ways that we have been misguided. And we have to really think, was this information given to me for my benefit? And who benefits from me continuing to hold this belief? And if you do that reflection and you realize the person who benefits most from you holding that belief isn't you, then that is an invitation to make yourself the sun. Then you may not be the sun in that moment, because what is going to be best for you is usually what's going to feel good for you. It's what's going to feel like it's propelling you forward, where you can be a full embodiment of yourself. And so it really requires a lot of patience and a lot of grace with ourselves to not put these types of relationships on a pedestal. And I also think that there is quite a bit of love and deconditioning collectively as women that we need to do, because sometimes there can be a little bit of contention, I think, between women who are single and women who are partnered. I mean, I think I understand this perspective the most because this is the category that I've had the most lived experience in. We can feel like we are constantly being told that our lives are on hold because we're not partnered, or meant to feel like where we're at right now is just a waiting room for this other place that we need to be, or that life starts once we're partnered. And that's just not true. And I think sometimes for partnered people, they can almost see single people as like this threat, right? Who is coming to take somebody or do something or have these ulterior motives. And I think everybody's just got to take a deep breath, be where they're at, and live the best version of life that is available to them. Because again, if single people are putting relationships and having relationships and people who are in relationships on a pedestal, and if people in relationships see single people, single women in particular, as this threat who's coming to take your whatever, that's still centering men and that's still centering romantic relationships. And when your focus is on thriving however you are, whether you are thriving in singlehood or thriving in partnership, and understanding that everyone's path looks a little bit different and that no path is better or worse than the other, that it's all neutral, that is like the collective deconditioning that I think we all need, that will help us all thrive so much more. So, the third principle of decentering men and decentering romantic relationships, I think, is getting really clear on who you are and what it is that you want. For so many of us from a young age, it feels like we are so conditioned to appeal to the male gaze, whether that is how we dress, how we present, how we sound, how we talk, how we smell, how we do our hair, how we do our makeup. I mean, so many beauty standards, aside from also just being incredibly Eurocentric, are also very male centered. What appeals to men? And when all of our decisions about how we spend our time and how we dress and how we present ourselves and how we act are so centered on what appeals to men, then it's hard to decenter them. And getting back to yourself, when you say, am I wearing this because I want to be perceived as attractive in a certain way, or do I wear this because I like it? And me liking it and feeling comfortable in it, that's enough. Am I doing my hair this way because it's seen as someone else's definition of attractive, whether that is, a cultural standard, a beauty standard, a male, whatever? Or am I doing it because I like it, because I feel good in it? Am I spending my time how I want to spend it, in places that I enjoy, with people I enjoy, doing things that bring me joy? Or am I spending my time on the hunt, looking for somebody? I'll go because maybe there might be people there. Maybe I might meet somebody. if you're making all of your decisions about how you live and how you present and how you spend your time and what you do and what you listen to and watch based off of being more attractive to another person, that is so exhausting. And I'm speaking from experience. I have absolutely done that in the past. I have absolutely pretended to like things that I didn't like. I have absolutely pretended to be interested in things that I wasn't interested in. I have absolutely gone to places for that reason because somebody might be there. I have absolutely worn things that I didn't really like because I thought somebody else might like it. And when you get to a point where you are so sick of that and you're so exhausted of it and you just want to live and exist and be, it is a type of freedom that is so blissful and is something that I want everybody to have. I want everybody to feel like they can be so authentically themselves because that is just such a beautiful way to live. How amazing is it to get to dress according to your own creativity and style? Like, you feel amazing when you do that. You feel so comfortable in your own skin. How much fun do you have when you're doing things purely because you like them? Because it's something that just lights you up and you just enjoy it. If you go somewhere where you feel welcomed and that the vibes are right, not just because you want to be able to hopefully meet somebody. And then when you go and then you don't meet somebody and you're all disappointed and you feel like it was a waste and you feel all deflected, that feels terrible. That feels so terrible. And I think a big part of centering ourselves in our lives is centering things that bring us joy, whether that is creative expression, whether that is doing hobbies and things purely because we want to do them, not for who may be there or for who may like us more. There is that TikTok trend around going around where people are posting the things sharing the things that they posted when they were younger to try to appeal more to their crushes. First of all, I've never been so grateful to be an older person because I do think that that trend is more so geared towards like younger people, people who had social media a little bit younger, particularly like Snapchat and Instagram a little bit younger because I'm noticing the people who post it is a little bit younger. But I do think it is just such a funny example of how everybody does that. And it's not just women. I've also seen men post those posts too. So many of us where it's like, I posted this because my crush said he really liked Michael Jackson, and it's this girl dressed up with some wild makeup dancing around like Michael Jackson. Like, that's a funny example. But how many of us spend our lives like that? Like, it's funny as a TikTok video. It's funny when you're, in middle school and you posted that on Snapchat or whatever, and we can all have a good laugh at it. But you living your life like that, you getting into your 20s and your 30s beyond and not knowing who you are or what you like because you've spent your entire life trying to appeal to someone else who we never appeal to for forever. People are so complex and they have so much baggage, and we all have traumas and likes and dislikes and preferences, and things change. And when we are constantly seeking that validation and that approval outside of ourselves, that is a race that we will never win. Because people can love us one day and hate us the next, whether that is romantic, whether that is friendships, whether that is on social media. That is the nature of being a human dealing with other humans. And that doesn't mean that we can't also love people and be in community with people and be in relationship with people. Because I think that we learn just as much from the heartbreak as we do the triumph, but it means that that can't be our sole source of validation. Because if we're letting people outside of ourselves be our sole source of validation for who we are and for what we want and for how we spend our time and for how we present ourselves, that is a race that we will never win. We are asking to be dissatisfied and to feel like nothing that we do is ever enough. But if your barometer for yourself is your own joy and centering your own light and your growth and your happiness and allowing yourself to experience and feel the good and the bad and being the full embodiment of who you are, then you can't lose, right? Chasing that external validation, you can't win. Following your inner compass, you can't lose. And I think one of my biggest learnings, the older that I get, is learning how to trust that and sit in that and be okay with where that leads, regardless of whether I thought it would be to a certain place or not. By a certain age, there is so much peace that comes from allowing yourself to be authentically yourself. And then whatever and whoever you attract, it feels so much better to know that they like you for who you are, that they like you because you like you. That feels so much better than someone liking you because of what you're pretending to be. And then you spend your whole life or whatever duration allowing that person to be the sun, like we talked about earlier, versus you being authentically yourself and attracting from who you are, then you remain the sun. And it doesn't mean that we can't be self aware, that there aren't things that we can't work on or, ways that we can grow and better ourselves, of course. But ultimately, your compass and your validation has to come from within yourself. It has to be center stage right along with you. It can't come, especially from somebody else who doesn't know who they are. And most people don't. That's not a drag. That's not tea. That's not shade. Everybody is trying to figure out who they are. Everybody is trying to figure out their place in the world and what is going on. So you can't let somebody who doesn't know where they're going or who they are, or how they feel about themselves, dictate how you feel about you. That has to come from inside. That has to come from knowing who you are and letting yourself make mistakes and releasing the judgment and releasing the labels and having a sense of curiosity and questioning those beliefs and questioning that conditioning and continuing to decondition and continuing to do the work and pour into you. So, as we think about that, I want you to reflect on a few things. How do you spend your time if you aren't fixated on doing things and being in spaces where maybe you can meet somebody or bump into somebody or have something happen? What would you do if you weren't worried about that? What would you like to read and do and focus on? How do you like to dress? If the male gaze weren't a thing, it's your gaze. Your gaze is the only one that exists, the only one that matters. What would you wear? How would you like to dress? How would you express yourself? How would you do your hair? How would you do your makeup? What would your aura be like if your gaze was the only one that mattered and the only one that existed? And you weren't worried about being perceived a certain way by romantic prospects? What would you do in your free time if you weren't fixated on how to appeal to another person? Like, be honest, journal about that. I want you to take those honest answers and find ways to infuse more of those answers of who you really are and what you really want into your own life. Keep yourself at the center of that stage. Make yourself the sun. Do you, be you. Lean into it. Allow yourself to flow with it and change and want different things and experiment with different things and be the version of you that you are today. Look at where that sense of worth or validation comes from. If you do some reflection and you realize that there are sources outside of yourself, what are some ways that you can pour and direct more of that back into yourself? What within you can help you feel more validated with who and where you are in your life? And if and when you do attract somebody who is so down for you because of who you authentically are, that is going to feel so good. Or if you already have somebody and you are just more yourself and they just fall more in love with you, that feels so good. So remember, you are the sun. You have so much warmth and radiant light to give, but it can only be given if you are the center and if you are being authentically yourself. Thank you for tuning into Balanced Black Girl today. I really appreciate you tapping in for this episode and for kicking off our summer of solo episodes with me. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure that you are subscribed on Apple, on Spotify, on YouTube so that you do not miss an episode. I have new episodes coming for you every Tuesday. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time.